Hey all, my apology. I just learned that the audio was off, so I have to restart the program. Uh, Please let me know. Send me a text on Facebook if you're not hearing the audio. All right, so let's continue. As I said earlier in the beginning, the topic of this podcast is the Robert Kilby effect, and I know Robert very well. We're both from Lower Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. His sister, Miss Lucinda, is married to my brother, Charles G. Nambi. And Robert and I have been friends and brothers for a very long, long time. So I decided to name this program after him. You could say this topic after Robert because of his experience in Liberia as the GSC for the Republic of Liberia. I do not have the timeline and I don't want to give you more details on Robert because we will have an opportunity for Robert to join us and tell us about his experience in Liberia. There are two words I want us to talk about before we get started because it is important that we understand these two terms before we move forward. The first one is the word affect, A-F-F-E-C-T. Affect means to impact or change. Usually people will say, you affected me, your action or your decision affected me. And the person might say, and so what? The so what is the effect. It means that the impact caused me to either lose money or change my plan or it made me to do things I was not anticipating to do. So those are one is you would say the impact and the effect is the result. So what we want to do is to look at the effect of Robert's time in Liberia, and not just Robert, but many other people that have done similar work or have experienced similar events as Mr. Robert Kilby. Before I move forward, I would like to take the time to introduce myself and you know tell you a little bit about what Dr. Lawrence Tortima is, and then we can proceed. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from Lower Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. I spent my early education on Cali Mission, St. Peter Clevers in Lower Buchanan, from kindergarten to ninth grade, and I went to high school at William V.S. Tutman High School in Monrovia, the Cardinals. Uh, After my time in high school, I spent a very short period of time, trying to find something to do, work and so forth, which I was unsuccessful. Um, then I went on to enlist into the Liberian Coast Guard when the coup occurred in 1980. So I had the opportunity to serve the Liberian Coast Guard from 1980 to 1982. Where between those years, I was able to enroll at LU Engineering School where I started, but I didn't finish because I left the country in the early 80s to come into the United States. I've been in the United States for many years. Um, I went to school here. I attended Essex County College where in Newark, New Jersey, where I received an associate degree in applied science. I later on went to New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I earned a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Technology. After that, I spent some time. I decided to enlist into the United States Navy, which I believe was an excellent decision in 1990 to go to boot camp and serve the, the United States Navy. Um, I was assigned to a ship. I spent about 2 years, 2.5 years in boot camp and school. I had to go to electrical school in Great Lakes. And then I went to my first ship, my first and only ship in 1992, the famous USS Yorktown. I have some friends that serve with me. I know they're listening or they're going to listen to the podcast later on. And I love you all, and I look forward to joining you, to talk more about our time spent in the fleet. After my time served in the United States Navy, I left and came back to Washington, and I joined a company as an engineer where I worked for a few years. Then I got selected to join Naval Sea Systems Command in Washington, D.C. as a civilian. I spent many years with NAVSEA, the shortcut for Naval Sea Systems Command, and they were very good to me. I spent many years between NAVSEA and the United States Pentagon doing medical things for my Navy. Through the United States Navy, I was able to earn my master's from GWU, the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., in engineering management. And through the Navy, I was also able to earn a doctorate degree in organizational leadership and management with emphasis on information systems and technology. I also got an opportunity to attend leadership school while in the Navy as a civilian, and NAVSEA was able to fund me to study at the University of Pennsylvania, Walton Executive School, where I earned a certificate in professional development. I said this because I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity maybe if I had not gone into the Navy. And my whole life, my whole adult career has been the United States Navy. Even, yeah, I retired in February 2023, but I couldn't stay away from work, and I went right back to support what I what I love to do, and I will continue to do until my time on this earth is over with. I love my work. I am married to Ms. Shirley Brown Torteman, the daughter of the late Shema Brown. We have 4 children. The oldest child is Lawrence Torteman Jr. He has a Master of Art. Kwashi is the second son. Kwashi also has a Master of Art. He works in mental health. I don't follow everything they do, so I can only tell you, their academic standings. My daughter, the only personal jewel, only girl, our father in this life. Uh, she is finding her way through the maze, and I know she will, because I'm 100% positive that she will make her way in this life. The last son is Tobias Tortiman. Tobias graduated from Virginia Tech, and he has a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry. They all have done well, and thank God for for having the strength and time to help them to get through. We will continue to press on and continue to help them, and hopefully they will find a way through the maze of life. Shirley and I live in Woodbridge, Virginia. We've been in this area for quite a long time, and life is good. Thank God. We've been, I would say, successful in what we do. She's a CPA, and she loves her work. Nothing you can take away from her. So that's it for the family. One of the programs or podcasts I'm going to have in the nearest future is just family to talk about growing up. How did I help it, and what was I? Was I a tough guy? I know we had some discussions, some heated discussions with father and children, but so they can just share their time with the world, or how my behavior or How did I react to their actions? We'll talk about that more. But the purpose of this podcast is again to focus on the effect of those of you who have had the time to make the sacrifice to go to Liberia. You pack up your bags, your family, your investment, your 401k, and everything, and you say, I'm going to Liberia to make a difference. And you run into all these different challenges. I want to hear from you, and I want you to help us to advise others in the future what to do and how to do it, and you know, how is it going to help us? Um, it's been an experience for me. I go in the country, once in a while, just to observe and see how things are going. And sometimes I get disappointed for what I see, but it's on both sides. We have to learn that things have happened. Most of us that grew up in the 70s, 80s. Liberia was a place most students from around Africa wanted to go to study. Uh, Most Africans wanted to go to teach because we were blessed to have, um, you know, a good relationship with the rest of the world. But things, for some reason, went in a different direction when after the coup and the Civil War. So it's been taking us time to recover. And I think the country is not just going to recover on its own, it's going to require us to also help as other foreign countries, especially the United States, has obligated their time to help us recover. But we also have to help. And to help Liberia to recover, it has to be a joint effort. But we must first understand the problem to be able to come up with solutions. So by having this podcast, sometimes I will sit there and write a paper, or I could even go and write a paper on the effect of, all of our investments, including all of you listening to me and some who will have the opportunity to listen to the podcast. But I think having a conversation, we will have a larger audience to understand or to listen and have an opportunity to weigh in to the conversation. Because if I only wrote a paper, there'll be few people that will be able to find that paper or the article and read the article. They may read it and say, well, I don't understand it. But I think if we have a verbal conversation, we will be able to explain to our people what we in the diaspora are trying to do and how it is going to impact them and what are the results of those impact. Again, we will go to the word affect and effect. Okay? So what we're going to do moving forward, I'm going to look at, take a certain population and collect a sample of people who have gone to Liberia, were successful, and those that were not successful, and those that came back to the United States or went back to England or other places to say, look, this is not working for me, I'm not going to do it again. We want to hear from you. And we think by doing that, we're going to somehow collect those experiences and we are able to advise others in the future as they plan to go in and help. So it is important that I don't sit here and do this by myself, but reach out to others for us to be able to solve some of these problems. It's important because if we do that, we are able to convince our children who, and I was surprised, just to deviate a little, that my son Lawrence would say, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to Liberia. I want to go and help." And he went in, and I observed him sometime when I was in Liberia, where he got kids on a Palava hut, and he started to teach them technology by using, tablets. He bought so many tablets, and he got the kids together, and he started to teach them simple things like math. And you'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised how, um, I don't know the term to use, but the challenge our children are facing with education. And it's not going to take one person to solve that problem. It's going to take all of us. But we have to have a strategy in place how we're going to solve it. And if we can work together as a team, believe me, we are going to be successful. So our children will be able to understand, okay, so these are the do's and don'ts if I want to go into Liberia to make a difference. I mean, I could ask my son, Tobias, hey, Tobias, can you give us 6 months of your time? It means we got to work with the company he works for because we don't want him to lose his benefits. We got to work with other NGOs. So Tobias can come in and go to Cottington, the Liberia, University of Liberia, and teach chemistry for 6 months. That's the sacrifice Tobias would make for us. But at the same time, we have to make sure we provide security for Tobias. Tobias has a place to live, and we can feed Tobias, and Tobias can spend those great 6 months of his time teaching at the University of Liberia. And after 6 months, we may now establish a, a path for others that can come in to help us. Besides education, we can start looking at, and I know, hey, don't get me wrong, I know others are thinking about this. People are doing it. I don't know, I haven't seen it, so I'm talking about it. So if you are out there and you're thinking about this, we need to get together and share your experience and see how we can refine the Robert Kilby effect and make sure we make those corrections as we move into the future. So, my friends and family, moving forward, like I posted on Facebook, we're going to have different phases of this conversation. It is not one time and then we're done. I want to make a general statement and bear with me. This conversation moving forward, it is not political. I am not here to speak to you about corruption. I am not here to speak to you about any government official. I don't have data on government officials. I don't have data on corruption. I don't know anything about how people handle the funding, the budget, and stuff in Liberia. I don't, because I haven't done any study. I haven't spoken to anyone about that. So I want us to spin this in a positive direction of how do we help to improve the quality of life for the Liberian citizens. That's what I want us to do. And I am not going to be able to do this alone. It's going to require a few of us coming together, sitting down, having a conversation, and devising ideas on how to move forward. I will share an experience with you before I close this, because as I said, I don't want to take too much of your time. I was in country recently, and I volunteered to meet with some students at the University of Liberia. And I wanted to speak to the kids on the topic of strategic thinking. Here in the United States, we have a place in Washington, D.C. They call it Center of Strategic Study, CSS. And I went there a few years ago to listen to President Goodluck speak. I think he was the president of Nigeria at one time. And this is where you find scholars and the think tank, you call them, where the people gather and have discussions about international affairs. Interestingly, you hear and you learn about international policies. So while in Liberia, I met with these kids and I try and I offer and brief them on the topic of strategic thinking. And they were very impressed for who I am. I didn't tell them anything about where I work, what I do, but I just wanted to share with them that the government of Liberia is not the only employer, or it shouldn't be an only employer for the nation. If you spend time in higher education, you should be able to meet with other scholars and discuss issues that you can turn into business. One of the examples I gave them in strategic thinking was the topic, the Zokos. Some of us, many years ago would say, hey, no grown-up boys. Yeah, I was a grown-up boy too, because I used to walk about, play football in the street and all of that. But look at the Zoko situation. This is going to be a whole different discussion in the future. And I told the kids, you're in college, you're graduating from college. Look at the Zuko situation and assume that the Zukos in Liberia is 2% of the population. I don't know that number, but I just said take 2%. That's the population. And few of you, 5, 6, 7, get together and have the discussion how you can reduce that number from 2% to 1%. Now, it is not just going to happen easily. There's some work you have to do. Okay? And have the discussion. How do we reduce that number? It's going to require a group discussion, a consensus, a plan, a strategy on how to move forward. Come up with a proposal to USAID and say, hey, USAID, we think we can solve this problem. And I can guarantee you, USAID is going to look at that. As a matter of fact, be very willing to help you to do that study because you are impacting society. Those are our brothers and sisters who have gone in that direction because they have no help. They couldn't afford it. Their only alternative now is to find means to live, to eat, and to do things that they do. So how can we change that society? What is the effect? And what is the impact to our Liberian society? So the kids are very excited. And I know, I told them, hey, I'm going to stay in touch with you. And I know they are willing to look at that. So don't let this be just me. It's an initiative I have taken upon myself to start, and I want us to come together to work as a team. If you are doctors going into Liberia to help, nurses, collecting medicine to go in, find other nurses, collaborate with other doctors, form a team. Let's look at the do's and don'ts when you're in country to make sure you are successful. If you are successful, Liberia is successful. Our children are successful. And the economy is successful. We love you. We want you to make a difference. So the second discussion on this topic, I'm going to look for a volunteer for us to sit down and talk about it. And then at some point, I will bring Mr. Kilby to the table. And so Robert can share with us, what he experienced and what were the effects. on our experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to thank you. I want to thank my family, my wife and children for taking the time to listen into this podcast. I had some technical difficulties starting the podcast. My audio was not on, and I know most of you tune in at 10 o'clock to listen. But again, I want to say thank you and welcome to this event. This is not one time. We're going to continue to do it. And I have a plan for you, and it is going to help us to provide or to bring positive change to our society. Most of us would like to go back and help, but we have to look at, we have family here in the United States, in England, in Australia, and all over the diaspora. I want you to do that, but let's make sure it doesn't impact your family life. So when you go spend time, you are safe. We can provide you the right security. We make sure that we have doctors on the ground that you can go to see if you're in for 6 months. And we make sure that you are well secure. We want you to have fun. If you were born in Liberia, we want you to go back. But we also want to get our children to help us because we spend lots of money trying to educate them. And I think their contribution to us will be to help the community, the people of Liberia, the children. If you can reduce our Zoko's population and turn those good citizens, our children, our brothers and sisters, into good citizens of Liberia, you have made a difference. Your impact have provided an effective return to our society. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.